We're going to take some questions from you all, but Trey is going to try to address as many things that we all know that you're going to ask about. I saw a lot of great questions written down, some of which I hadn't even thought of, so good on you. The microphone is right here, so speak up. Okay.
All right.
Are we live?
We're live. We're recording.
All right.
Okay.
Trey, the floor is yours.
Thank you. First, please order yourselves by height. Shorter people in the front so you can see and hear me. I will be pointing at things and making demonstrations about the rules. It'll make a lot more sense if you can see what I'm doing. Also, I already said this once, but I'm going to say it again. Never, ever, ever, never, ever step or jump over the structure in the middle of the field. It is a warning for the entire team, so even if you aren't the one who did it, you are affected by the warning. Then it is a yellow card, then it is a major penalty in the yellow card, then it is a call to headquarters. We don't have to get that far because I've never had to get that far, so please don't make me have to get that far. So, as I said, Ethan and I sat down and went through a list of rules that I think are going to be asked about. If you've come up with those, good job. You have the same ideas that we do. After that, I'll go over, or I'll take questions. So the first thing I want to correct, the video said that penalties are subtractive. Penalties add to your opposing alliance instead of taking away your score. So the effect on the difference between you and your opponent, or whether you would win or lose, is the same, but just a technicality on that. So we have scoring here, just to get some terms straight. We have the wings are the taped off corners. Then we have the truss structure. The truss structure is broken up into different sections. The alliance colored bars are called the rigging. This is the stage door. It opens towards the back, which leads us into the handy naming of this. The taped off alliance areas are the back stage, and these scoring areas are the back drop. Note that the back drop is inside of the back stage. Keen viewers of the rulebook may know, in previous years, any game element that was in 2 or more scoring elements counted only for the higher scoring achievement. Well, here, this pixel is both on the backdrop and in the scoring area. They have adjusted the wording of the rule so that it only counts for the backdrop and does not count to be backstage. Just clarify that. We had a lot of questions going around about how mosaics work. So mosaics are the bonus points that you get for arranging different colored pixels. All of the mosaics on this backdrop score. None of the mosaics on this backdrop score. Or more accurately, this backdrop has no mosaics. None of these meet the definition. So we'll go over the definition of a mosaic. Is a set of 3 non-white pixels that are touching each other and nothing else. So they must have either exactly 1 yellow, 1 green, and 1 purple pixel, or they must all be the same. So this is a valid multicolored mosaic. This is another valid multicolored mosaic, and this is a valid green mosaic. Now, if it does not meet exactly that criteria, so here we have 2 green and 1 yellow, this is not a valid mosaic. And they must not be touching any other non-white pixels. So these 5 pixels together, even though these 3 together on their own would be a valid mosaic, if I take these away, this is a valid mosaic. As soon as they touch another non-white pixel, this is no longer a mosaic at all. Okay. I think that covers all the mosaic rules. Another thing that we want to talk about are the set height line, or the set bonuses. So as you move up the backdrop, you get bonus points based on if there are any pixels inside the line denoting the set bonus. So this backdrop earns all 3 of the set bonuses. The other backdrop only earns 1 because the green pixel is over the line. If I remove this pixel, it now only gets 2 bonuses instead of 3. You may also note that the pixels do not have to nestle into each other. They pretty much nestle by default if you let them fall, but sometimes they'll fall in a weird way and not nestle into place. That is fine. They still score regardless of how they are oriented, as long as they are touching the back piece of the backdrop. The next thing you're wondering about for moving around the field is how many game elements you can control. You may control up to 2 pixels and up to 1 drone at a time. I think I left my drone over there, but that's okay. We can get that.
Somebody throw a drone on him.
Airstrike inbound.
That was really good. All right. So you may have 2 pixels and 1 drone at a time. You may start preloaded with 1 purple, 1 yellow pixel, and 1 drone at a time. There are going to be pixels that start staged along the back wall. There's also going to be 1 that starts in the on the spike marks for randomization, and then you can have 2. All of the rest of them go in the human player zone. So outside of the red wing is a pile of pixels that were neatly organized, but then I had to scrounge around to make my demos. That is where the human player will stand to introduce them into the field. I'm not going to go over all the human player rules. If you were a human player in previous seasons, almost all of the rules are exactly the same in terms of you can't be in there while the robot's in there, the robot can't come in while you were in there. There are limits on how many you can put in at a time,
2.
all of that. Yes, it's the same as the possession limit. So I'm not going to go over them because they're very similar to previous rules. If you have too many, it's an immediate minor penalty per 5 seconds. And if you score, it's another minor penalty, so you really don't want to be controlling too many. There are exceptions to the control rules. So this is what I wanted to get to for over here. You may remember the super fun time that we had last year with controlling the cone stack. So if I knock over this stack of pixels, that is not controlled. That is an explicit exception. If I just accidentally bump into it and move it a little bit, that's fine, as long as it is inadvertent and inconsequential. But the game manual specifically says that if it comes off the tape, it's no longer inconsequential, and that is controlling the entire stack. So, any of the pixels that are in the backstage or scored on the backdrop are exempt from the control limit, so you don't have to worry about touching too many that are already scored. We already talked about you cannot grasp the door. It's a major penalty, and you cannot prevent the stage door from operating normally while another robot is trying to use it. So, separately, there's an entire section on transiting, and I'm just going to read the definition from the game manual because it's a lot to try and break down. So, violations of the transit constraint rule will count as blocking from the pinning blocking trapping rule. Repeated violations will quickly escalate to a yellow card. Disrupting the transit of an opposing alliance robot through the stage door is not allowed. Robots passing through the stage door from the audience side to the back have transit priority. Robots traveling from the back to the audience side must yield a free path of travel. And then it later in a separate section says specifically, the underneath of these bars does not count as a free path of travel. So if you stand here and block, you are blocking all paths of travel from one side to the other. So you need to make sure that you're yielding access to the stage door when you're doing that. Okay, I'm going to talk about drones. So everybody has drones. I'm going to read off a list of things. The rules for building a drone are in Game Manual Part 1 because it counts as part of robot construction. So make sure when you go read Game Manual Part 2 for all the rules, you also turn around and read Game Manual Part 1 for drone construction and team prop construction. So, you cannot possess a drone that is not yours, even your partner's. The drone must be launched during in-game to score, and it must pass over the rigging, meaning the red bars, or over the topmost pole here. So if I were to throw it under here, this is not going to count. If I were to throw it under here, this is not going to count. I have to throw it from this side over that side. Now the way that it scores is based on the zone that it is in. So luckily these mats are exactly the distance that we need to mark off. And so the first block is zone 1, that's worth 30 points. The second is zone 2, 20 points, and in zone 3, 10 points. The one that I just threw is partially in zone 1, but also partially in zone 2. It earns zone 2 points, which is 20 instead of 30. So
zone 1's 30?
Yes, zone 1, the closer you are to the field, the better, and it goes 10, 20, 30 as you get closer. You may not affect the flight of an opposing alliance drone, and if your robot may not affect the flight of an opposing alliance drone. You as a driver may not affect the flight of any drone, so don't be blowing on your drones. Like don't try and will it to go a certain way. All right. The construction rules, sorry, none of the drones that we're going to be working with today are valid drones because they must be alliance colored. So you must have a red drone and a blue drone. It must have, quote, a defined fuselage and wings. No, I don't know what that means. Please ask on the forums.
Has to look like a plane.
Yeah, but it says to the inspector. Anyway. So this is a rule that has actually been in the game manual every year, but usually doesn't impact play. The robot cannot be able to throw the drone more than 18 feet. The drone must be made out of a single continuous sheet of paper, no bigger than a standard 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. It can be decorated by printing it, like through a standard printer. A graphite pencil's ink pen or felted marker. You may not use cardstock, construction paper, cardboard, photo paper, etc. And you may not use crayons, colored pencils, paint, chalk, or other similar items to decorate it. The team prop, so that's the game element that can be used for randomization, must be entirely the Alliance color and no other coloration is allowed. It cannot use any fiducial markers. So last year it was very common for people to put QR codes or April tags on their signal sleeve. That is not allowed this year. You must have your team number on it exactly once, and it must be visible from the side of the field. Okay, I'm going to talk about how randomization works. There is no more die roll. So the scoring system is just going to tell you left, right, or center, and then the spike mark, which there are 3 spike marks. There's the left spike mark, the center spike mark, and the right spike mark. The field staff will move the pixel onto the correct one, or your team prop if you provide one. Depending on where the randomization is selected, you can earn bonus points by taking your purple pixel, specifically the purple one, and placing it onto the same spike mark as the white pixel. So if it was a center randomization, this purple pixel scores, this does not, this does not, this does. I think this does, this definitely does. Separately, your yellow pixel is used to score on the backdrop. So there are 3 April tags. There's the left, center, and right April tag that are labeled 1, 2, and 3, and then say left, right, and center. They correspond to the area directly above them. So if it, in the example of center, you get points if you get your yellow pixel into the area from here over to here. So this white pixel was yellow, you would get your bonus for this. In both cases, the bonus is doubled if you have your team prop instead of the white pixel. Okay. I know I'm bouncing around the order that you play the game. We just talked about auto. And now we're going to shift to in-game. As I said, the rigging is the red pole. You can have exactly 1 robot per rigging. You can only grasp onto the pole that is your color, but you are allowed to touch other things. You may not contact an opposing alliance robot. That was in the video. And then I will just read you the definition of suspended so that we're all clear. A robot is considered suspended when it is completely supported by the rigging, which is the pole, and is not in contact with any other game element, robot, or the playing floor. Incidental contact with scoring elements to truss another robot or the stage door is allowed. For example, if you were holding a pixel when you climb, that's still fine. Teams are encouraged to make this obvious and unambiguous to the referees, so please don't try and be just a millimeter off the ground. I already told you don't step over this. I already told you that the human player rules are the same. Another thing that's worth knowing is that pixels cannot be propelled, so you can't sit here and throw pixels over into the scoring area. Also, I just said that you can't throw propel pixels, but there's a separate specific rule, and I don't know why this rule exists. If you are on this part of the field, so from this tile over, you may not score on the backdrop. So if you can extend yourself to be 6 feet long and reach over there, the rules say you can't even do that. There are also in this year's game several places where disabled robots are not exempt from penalties. So in general, there's a blanket rule G7 that says that if your robot is disabled, that robot can no longer earn penalties. However, as in previous years, if I'm a red robot and I become disabled in the opposing alliance's human player entry area, that still earns me penalties. Same for blocking access here, and same for blocking access in the scoring areas there. Those are all of the things that I had, and I'm happy to take questions. I'm going to go this way over. Yes.
So when the controller period starts, when the human player, how many pixels can the human player put in the map?
Okay, so as I understand it, the wording of the rule is a little ambiguous, but you can put in up to 2 pixels and 1 drone in at a time. There's no limit to the number that can be in there. Once you put them in, you cannot reposition them in any way. So same as for Cohen's last year. Yes.
So this is more like a, like just a clarification question on the competitive side of things. So say, well, first of all, are you allowed to go, is your robot, say you're on the red team, is your robot allowed to go into the blue? And yeah.
So you're not allowed to de-score. So if you go in and take pixels out, that's a minor penalty per pixel removed. You're not allowed to impede or block access to the backstage. But I do not believe there is an explicit rule about not being inside of it.
Then my other question is, are you allowed to basically like to incomplete mosaics? Like say that mosaic right there with the purple, yellow, and green. Say I bring another purple over and I put it on their team to screw up their mosaic, so that way then they kind of get less points. Would that give them?
Yes. So this is the first question. If this mosaic is already completed, and I come over and do this, I have now de-scored a mosaic, and that's a minor penalty for de-scoring the mosaic. Now, however, if they have it like this, and you put it here, it is now impossible to complete the mosaic. I do not know offhand if there's a rule for that. I feel like there should be, but I don't know. So ask on the forum.
And then my other question is, if you place a scoring tile onto the other team's
I do not know.
thing, will that give you give you
It
points?
scores based on the backdrop, not based on who put it there.
All right.
So one other thing, again, yeah, we'll do this at the end, yes.
So what's the maximum weight of the robot and the drone?
I do not believe there is a maximum weight to the robot. I double checked, I couldn't find anything. That doesn't mean there's not one, because I didn't check all the documents. The drone does not have a maximum.
one if there was a maximum weight.
Yes, I tried Control F weight and it didn't come up in the one, but that doesn't mean it's not there. Maximum weight for the drone, there's a list of it can make, you can only make it out of one piece of paper and drawing on it, so I don't think you can make it much heavier than one sheet of paper, but there's not an explicit weight limit. Yes.
So like if the drone is the wall and then it's just the one thing, does that still count?
Yes, so the only rule, the question was if the drone hits the wall and then falls over like a let in tennis, then it still scores as long as it met all of the other criteria. If it hits the wall and falls back into the field, you are welcome to go get it and try again, but that's going to be fairly difficult. Yes.
Can you add like weight to the paper airplane, like let's say paper clips?
So the drone is only allowed to be made out of exactly one sheet of paper, and if you modify it between inspection and coming to the field or even during the match, and we find out after the fact, the drone does not count. It's explicitly listed in the drone rules that modification after the fact invalidates the drone.
In autonomous, does a yellow pixel and a yellow pixel count? Like in the mosaic on your side, like right
Yeah.
next to you?
So
If that yellow pixel was on the other side of the bottom yellow pixel, does that count?
So, let me answer a slightly different question that I think answers your question. Every scoring achievement counts in all possible ways that it could count. So when I have the yellow pixel and I put it in the center here, I get points for it counting as the bonus for autonomous. I get points for it being a pixel scored on the backdrop. And if valid, I get points again for it being a mosaic. And if it's still there at the end of driver control, I get more points for it having been scored in both autonomous and driver control. So this one pixel can score 4 different ways. Yes?
So like, say like you put like a pixel on your team's backdrop. What if it falls down in the place that you didn't want it to go? Can you grab it again and try again for your minutes?
Yes, so once something is, you are allowed to de-score yourself. So say I got it like this, like I was trying to put it over here and it fell, now I can't recover this mosaic. I'm allowed to take this off as long as I don't violate the control limit of having 2 in my possession at once. This is valid. Yes.
How much do the blue and red codes hold?
I don't know. I do not know. I haven't tried it. I would not recommend trying it. I would ask on the QA before you break one of your poles. Behind you, yes.
How many purple pixels can spikes hold?
Only one of them scores. So each robot is given one to preload. That robot is only able to score one, and they are only able to score on the set of spike marks that are in front of them. So you have to start in either this tile or that tile, and the mirror on the other side. If I start here and place this here, it doesn't score. And you can only score your one. Yes.
So, I got a couple questions, but does color affect how many pixels you can control? So, like if I have 2 greens.
No, the control limit applies to pixel regardless of color.
Cool beans. And then the other thing is, if I have a drone and the drone hits another drone while they're both in the air.
All good. If a drone hits a drone in flight, no harm, no foul.
Sweet.
Oh, do you have another one? Okay.
No.
Yes.
How long does the robot have to hang on the pole?
So the robot. I do not know. So in general, most things are scored at rest. So if the robot is falling and it hits the ground, then it won't get credit for the hang. However, they changed some of the rules this year on which counts as what scores at a specific time and what scores when it comes to rest. I think the answer is that if you were to get up right at the end of time, hold it for a second, be completely still, and then fall, it would score. But I don't know that for sure. I can check that in a minute.
I think the general answer though is, in the past, it's what happens right at the 2-minute, 30-second end of game, right? So if you're up there when the whistle blows, that's when it counts. If you hung and then you let go and then the game ends, that's not a score, right? It's the state at the end of the field.
Yeah, if you could monologue for just a second, I could give you a definitive answer.
Cool.
No, it's whatever it is at 0, even if you're in the process of falling.
Even if you're
So as long as you are fully supported by this, when the buzzer sounds, you're good.
So when you're supported by the red bar and you're hitting that yellow pole right there, does that mean that you're not like supported entirely, even if your robot's just like barely touching it? Or
So let's pretend like this is some weird robot. If I am like this, and I'm putting pressure on the yellow bar, I am supported by the yellow bar. If I'm hanging so that I'm pushing up on the yellow bar, this counts, this does not.
Okay. And what's the limit to the landing zone? Does it cross this whole? Is it just this?
It goes the entire width of the field. We just didn't want to use
We're not
that.
allowed to take the floor.
No, that's good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And to be clear, the tape for the end of the zone counts as part of the previous zone. So if I was to land on the tape and completely before the tape, then that counts as zone 1. I'm gonna go back around again. Sorry.
So during the autonomous period, once you have placed stuff in here, do you have to stay? Because it said something about, it mentioned something about if you're parked during the autonomous period in the garage-like zone, once you place something on here, do you have to stay in here during the
So you
autonomous
don't have
period?
to stay. You will earn bonus points if you are here at the end of the match. But I could come in place, leave, go do something else, and then come back and get the bonus. And you also could say it's not worth it to get the bonus and go do something else to be ready to do, like be over there to be ready to get something at the end of autonomous. So yes, if you want the points, you have to be in the backstage at the end of autonomous.
So it's not required though.
No. It's just a score that you
Could you be partially in the backstage?
This counts. So I'm in the backstage because I am over top of I'm breaking the plane of the backstage and I'll get my points. Yes.
When you're hanging on one of the bars and you toss a drone, does that count?
Yes, so the rules say that a drone can be launched by a robot. One thing I don't, if you could throw it back. So if great, y'all are much better at throwing paper airplanes than I am. So if you're holding, if I am completely off the ground here, and I throw it like over myself this way, that definitely counts. I am unclear if I'm holding it here and throw it this way. I'm pretty sure that doesn't count.
I agree.
But I don't understand why the rules went out of their way to say that a drone or a robot that is suspended can throw, because there was nothing that would have said you couldn't do that otherwise. So anyway, yes, I think if you're up here and follow all the other rules, it'll count for sure. Yes.
if I was suspended on the red, can't remember what it's
Rigging.
called. Yeah, if I was suspended on that, could I extend something like a tape measure into the back stage?
That goes into the multiple scoring zones rules.
Yeah, so, yes, in general, Geo7 says you can only get credit for one scoring area at a time. I think that overrides that, but I'm not 100% sure. I can double check and make sure that applies. Yes.
Similar to the stacks of cones from last year.
Yeah.
If you brace the stacks of pixels when you take the top two off, does that mean you're controlling all of them?
Okay, so that is a fantastic question that is not explicitly addressed by the game manual. The game manual says you may not intentionally control them, but I don't think it has an exception for bracing this year. I'll double check that too.
And then I have a,
Yep.
so if you have a team design element for the spikes,
Yes?
do you get the pixel back, like the pixel? that
Yes, so the pixel goes back into your human player area to be put in later. Yes.
So are two robots allowed to pass a pixel through the this area?
There's nothing preventing pixel movement as long as you don't throw the pixel. So both robots can go this way. I don't understand exactly the scenario you have in your head, but every way that I can think to interpret your scenario, I think works, as long as you don't throw the pixel.
There might be something about rolling. I think there is a definition in the game manual for rolling, and rolling is propelling on the ground. So, for instance, sorry, if you were to somehow manage to get a pixel to do this, it counts as propelling it. And I think, and Ref Trey is welcome to correct me, or if you guys read differently in Game Manual 1, I think that the pixels are not allowed to be propelled.
That is true.
They're not, you addressed that earlier.
Yeah, so if you roll it, that's one thing, but, so what are you trying to say when you say pass? Do you mean like this?
Yeah, like can the robots like pass a pixel?
Yeah, as long as you're not propelling.
If I do this, I only get credit for the rigging. Confirmed. What was the other question that I was going to check? I told you I'd look it up.
Oh, like if you were to place another yellow pixel on the right side of the backdrop.
But if both robots were to put the yellow pixel in the right place,
yeah,
then that counts. Yes.
So if a robot gets disabled on its way through,
Yes.
does that still count as blocking the
I believe it is still eligible. Okay, so if I was here and just stuck in this tile, I'm not inherently blocking because they say that it is defined to be wide enough for two robots. So I don't think one robot by itself can block the stage door and they're holding it shut.
Yeah, what I was thinking is if like they lifted it up,
Yeah.
they got this, and then they like shut down.
Right, so it says you can't prevent the movement.
You can't prevent the upward movement. You cannot limit the upward movement. So if I'm holding it up,
I'm currently limiting the upward movement.
well,
It
right
can't
now,
go, no, it can't go higher. I'm limiting the upward movement.
No, that bar is limiting upward movement.
Right, so ask on the forums, please. I don't know where the limit is here.
You can hold it for your life.
Yeah, so you're right. You're only allowed to not limit. The rules say that you are not allowed to impede opposing alliances using this. You can do whatever you want with regard to your partner. Yes. Okay, we'll come back.
So I think I know the answer, but can you do things pre-endgame? So like endgame things pre-endgame, like can you throw the drone prior to endgame? Can you hang prior
So
to
I know that you cannot throw the drone prior to end game. I do not remember if you are allowed to try and hang prior to the end game. Yes, you may not hang. You may not do either of them before end game.
And then for Vesper's question, when she was asking about the robot passing, does putting the pixel like through, but your robot doesn't actually go through the stage door, like that area, is that okay?
Yes, there is no convoluted like set of.
Like the whole robot does not need to pass
No,
through the stage door.
no, it's all good. Yes.
Is the Red Alliance allowed to pass under this blue barrier?
I believe so. You still can't block, but yeah, I think you're fine. Yeah.
For clarification, that one robot, it said that one robot could be in one rigging.
Yes.
If you wanted to red pole.
Yes.
You can't have two robots on.
Right. So, if both robots tried to hang on this one, that doesn't count. But this is fine.
Yes.
Do we have any more on this side? Okay. Yep.
So are you able to set the pixel on the ground? Okay, so instead of passing, are you able to set a pile of pixels on the ground for the other robot to grab from that pile?
Yeah, so if you wanted to take this pile of 5 and then 2 at a time make a pile of 10 over here and then come grab the pile of 10 and move them over there, as long as you don't ever control more than 2 at a time, that's fine. But anybody else could also come take that pile. So do work for other people at your own trouble.
Can you pass under the bars instead of going to the center?
Yes, you are welcome to pass under this bar, but it is worth noting that this bar is 14 inches high and your robot's normal starting configuration can be up to 18 inches high. So if you want to design a small robot, you're welcome to do that.
Okay, so can you like have a part where your robot extend over that when you're trying to throw your drone to like
The drone in flight must pass over this.
And the drone doesn't have to be launched over here, or can you like somehow have something that extends over the drone?
The drone in flight, not being touched by you, must pass over this and then land over there. So if I do that, that doesn't count because the drone did not pass over this. I passed over this and then let go of it.
Oh, okay.
The drone in flight must pass over the A rigging or the top pole of the stage door.
What happens if you're hanging on the rigging? How would you like get the drone?
I
over
don't
it
know.
if you're on it?
Well, so
That's a design problem.
if I'm here, like if I have 2 arms, then I just have to throw it over. If it goes over me and I'm on top of the rigging, that's fine. How you do that? It's a team design. Yeah, good luck.
Is it allowed and technically possible for you to go upside down on the rigging?
Yes, as long as you are fully supported by the rigging and only the rigging, that counts.
Can our drone have a slight curve to it so it droops down at the end of its flight?
I believe so. I believe so. As long as it looks like it has a fuselage and wings, and your inspector is willing to say that fuselages can be bendy, I think it's fine. Like if you want a Concorde, I think you can have a Concorde.
So can you modify the piece of paper, like cutting it?
I believe so, as long as it's made from, well, okay, I take that back. It says a single continuous piece of paper. Now, the mathematician topologist in me says that as long as I don't separate it into 2 pieces of paper, I can still cut it and have it be one continuous piece of paper. I do not know what the game manual definition of a continuous piece of paper is. Please ask on the forum. Yeah.
So actually, a little bit back on the drone. So it's all right for an alliance partner to hold it with someone else to under.
Yep.
Yeah. If that were to block the drone somehow, does
Yeah.
that count as blocking?
Yes.
It does. Okay.
So again, it's generally the actions of blocking, I believe say, I believe the exact wording is directly or indirectly block. So it becomes a question of what the ref believes happened in the moment. Like sometimes it can be hard. If I'm holding it over here and it gets blocked by the far end over there, the referee may not realize that the opposing alliance just blocked the flight. But yes, I believe under the current wording, I can tell you, a robot may not affect the flight of an opposing alliance drone that is flying above the height of the playing field wall. That drone will be awarded zone 1 point. So you cannot affect it. Doesn't say how. Yes.
Are you allowed to prop the door open?
So prop is a very vague word. If I just want to sit here and hold it, This is in general fine as long as it is not blocking another robot somehow, some way, or interfering with a drone's flight or anything like that. But if your job for the match is going to be to hold this open for everybody, I believe you can do that.
That
Yeah.
did happen in the video.
Right. I mean, you can definitely hold it open for a little bit. I think there's nothing stopping you from holding it open for the entire match, but that's harder for me to think through. Yeah.
So, okay,
I mean, you can go next. But.
Have a part of your robot that goes underneath the trestle and then launches your drone, even if the base, the chassis of your robot is on the other side.
As long as the drone gets let go on this side and passes over, it's fine.
okay, cool. So, in the, like, what she was going over,
Mhm.
she was talking about how you can't have, like, an alliance's, drone, so you can't have an alliance's drone. Does that hinder, like, during competition, I know last year, some field elements, some teams would make multiple field elements so that their partner would also get field elements. Does that affect it?
So I think what you're talking about is like, say I'm paired up with PC Rocket.
Okay,
They don't have.
let me read you GS11B.
Yeah.
A robot may not possess a drone provided by another team. So during the match, I can't possess my partner's. I also can't possess one that my partner has given me because it was provided by another team.
Wow.
You need to make all of your drones for your competition. Oh yes, please show up to competition with like 20 drones, because if the drone gets hurt, you're not going to have a drone for the rest of the day. Like, please make backups upon backups of these drones. They're going to get messed up.
Question.
Yeah.
This is just like a clarification question. Does there have to be a specific way the drone is launched, or can you do it? Can you launch it upside down, right side up?
So there's a limit to how far you can throw it, and I think there's a separate limit of how high you can throw it. So don't quote me on this, because the height limit is in Game Manual Part 1, and I didn't read that as closely. Okay, so there's your limit. I can throw it up as long as I don't throw it more than 5 feet up. I have no idea if that was 5 feet. But there you go.
So say you lifted the gate, could you leave a pole in your robot? Can you detach the pole from your robot?
There's a separate rule for no detaching parts.
Okay, got it.
It's actually a red card, I think. So don't do that.
So if your drone has a fuselage and wings at the beginning of the match, and then your robot turns it into a snowball.
To score,
Still needs to look like a plane when it runs.
GS11F says that in order to score, a drone must be in legal configuration. Altering a drone after inspection or during match play to better the chance of scoring is not in the spirit of the rule and will not be considered a drone.
They thought of it. They thought of it.
Can we get it wet? Can we slip ball?
All right, so the question is there a limit to the number of team props or drones that I can have? So you may only bring one to the field, but you can bring as many as you want to competition. So please, please, please bring backups upon backups. I'm happy to take a couple more questions. I don't know if Ethan had a time. I will be here.
Yeah. Let's say pick your top 3 best questions.
Okay, that being said, I will be here until they tell me to leave. So if you have more questions, I can take more questions. I just don't want everybody to be listening to questions if you'd rather be thinking about other rules. Yeah.
Yeah, we got robots to design. So 3 questions. Make them count.
Per person, per team?
For Trey.
Per team.
Okay. Well, how many teams do we have? Can we do 1 per team?
Yeah.
We got Christiansburg.
We got about
Panda,
6
Magna,
or 7 teams.
TC.
All right.
Is that it? Trey, yes.
One per team on your honor, because I don't know what team you're from.
Yeah, 1
So-
per team.
Okay. Yes.
We're
Christiansburg team.
Christiansburg is first.
All right. So is this size ring, is it the same size as last year?
Yes, everything is the same size.
Guys, you can ask Trey questions later. This is just for now.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah?
PC.
How big can the score not square element, the team element?
That is an excellent question that
3
I.
by 3 by 3 is the minimum. 4 by 4 is the maximum.
Okay.
The one used for autonomous.
There you go. Yeah.
All right, turning and canvas.
Can we take these over there?
All right, thank you, everybody.
No, but I can copy all of
I don't know. I haven't. I can look up a diagram. Yeah, I can scroll the diagram. I just don't know offhand.
Thank you so much.
It's 92 points if you do that.
Very good questions.
92 points.
Now we're moving on to the final part of the day, which is the brainstorming. So you guys broke into groups to discuss rules questions. I want you to go back to those same groups, those same